For part 2, I'll pick up where I left off here. So the periodic table is organized in vertical columns that are called families. All elements in the same family have the same number of valence electrons. In the first family it's 1, second family is 2, skipping all the transitions. 13th family is 3, 14th is 4, 15th is 5, 16th 6, 17th. So here we are with these elements. They all want to have a full octet, meaning full 8 electrons in their outermost shell. So these guys want to gain 1 electron. If they gained 1 extra electron, remember back when we started talking about these subatomic particles in the Bohr model, we said that the protons and electrons, the positives and negatives, were equal. Now if it were to gain 1 extra electron, it would have 1 more negative charge than it does a positive charge. So looking at this picture right here, if fluorine gains 1 extra electron, then it will have a charge of -1. Whereas lithium, if it loses an electron, it now has more positive charges than it does negatives, so it becomes +1. And so that's how we get these charges, these ionic charges. And then based on the universal electric force, which basically just says that opposite charges attract and like charges repel. If you have 2 ions, one of them positively charged and one of them negatively charged, they will attract and hook together. That's what we call an ionic bond. So when lithium loses an electron, fluorine gains an electron, this becomes negative, this becomes positive, and they attract to each other and hook together, forming what's called an ionic bond, which might be lithium fluoride. So, one of the things is the valence shells. The valence electrons, horizontal or vertically. The horizontal orientation tells you the number of shells. So all of them in the first row have 1 shell. All of them in the second row have 2 shells. In the third row, 3 shells. All the way down to 7 shells. Now is a good time to talk about where we got that number of 288. Remember, the first shell can only hold 2 electrons. And if you look at the first row, we only have 1, 2 spots. If you look at the second row, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You might be starting to recognize that we have 8 electrons in the second shell. And the third shell can also hold 8. So if you go back and you look at an actual periodic table, the first shell can hold 2, the second one 8, and the third one 8. We stop there because we don't really consider transition metals in this intro chemistry class as much, but you could guess that it's going to add another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so that you can hold 18 electrons, but we'll save that for a later time. So, periodic tables are organized vertically by the valence electrons, number of valence electrons, or electrons in the outermost shell only, and horizontally by the number of energy shells they possess. So what I like to do at this point is pull up the periodic table and choose an element and say, okay, let's look at element number 15. And I point to it and I say, how many electron shells, how many valence electrons? So I say 1, 2, 3 shells, and it's in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column, so it's going to have 5 valence electrons. That's the important stuff. That's all you really need to know in order to move forward with bonding. So we have this periodic table, which if you have the students each make a Bohr model, a big Bohr model, like on a piece of paper or something, they might even cut it out into a circle. They can hang them all on the wall, and you can make a giant periodic table that shows the valence electrons, and then maybe they can recognize that these all have 1, these all have 2 valence, 3, 4, and so forth. Moving on across, we have other characteristics that we then talk about. So we talk about things like ionization energy, how much energy it takes to take an electron away, or electron affinity, atomic radius. And so the periodic table is set up in trends that you can sort of start to understand. This gets a little bit more in depth. You can do a Google search to find some videos that go over this. So hopefully this helps get you started anyway. Good luck.